All right, NFC North. What teams in the NFC North over or under on 8 wins? So I am choosing the Green Bay Packers to lead the division over the Detroit Lions, followed by the Minnesota Vikings, and in last place, the Chicago embarrassing Bears. They're still embarrassing. All right, Green Bay Packers. They lost some players, they gained some players, but we still have a draft. So I analyzed this team quite a bit because this is my team. Jordan Love is still going to be their quarterback. He hopefully doesn't get hurt in a foreign country somewhere right from the get-go. I know they're going to go up against the Steelers in Ireland at some point on that soccer field, so just be mindful and be smart when playing that football. Josh Jacobs was phenomenal this past season when they signed him. Some of the receivers got banged up. Jaden Reed, Dobbs, and Watson are all banged up, but they're all solid players. Dontavian Wicks dropped several footballs, so if he doesn't get his act together, they're going to get rid of him probably. In the draft, I think that they are going to go out and draft at least a wide receiver in the second round, and that could transform their offense a little bit. Tucker Kraft has been reliable. Luke Musgrave was hurt but came back. Offensive line, they go out and get Aaron Banks, but the Packers let go of their center, so there's going to be some questions there. But they still have Zach Tom, who's very reliable, and Elgin Jenkins. So offensively, we'll see what they can do, but I think that the defense is solid. Offense is okay, but the offense needs to get better. Defense will get better if they can go out and get a pass rusher, a dominant pass rusher that can get to the quarterback, because if you don't get to the quarterback, then the Eagles, with the help of their referees, will basically win the football game. So Packers go out and they get Nate Hobbs from the Raiders. Supposedly he has some ability that's similar to Jair Alexander. Hopefully Jair Alexander can come back and win some football games for the Packers. But Edgerrin Cooper was a huge impact on the team. He got hurt a little bit last season, but I think that some of these players are going to make some leaps that just makes the Packers way better than the previous season. Lucas Van Ness, it's going to be his 3rd season, but Rashawn Gary needs to step it up. Some of these guys need to step it up and get to the quarterback. They did a good job of stopping the run. Jeff Hafley was phenomenal calling the defense. They had way more takeaways than the previous season. Joe Barry was a snooze fest for this team. So I think the Packers will get over 8 wins. I think that they will reach at least 10 to 11 wins. The division is getting better, so it is going to be some tough games between the Packers and the whole division. I think the Packers can still beat the Bears. They lost one game against the Bears, but I think they will beat the Bears both times this time. Packers can beat the Vikings if J.J. McCarthy ends up being the quarterback. We'll see the question mark there. Detroit Lions will still have the same players, but they did so many changes in their coaching that I think that the Packers will beat the Lions this time.
To me, I think Green Bay has it's a good regular season coach, and there's a reason why I'm saying that. They have a solid offense. I think the wide receiver core is really good. The Josh Jacobs talent is there. The biggest thing is keeping their quarterback healthy and trying to be able to be more consistent on pass catching. They did have an uptick of drops last year. The next thing is they have a mid-tier defense, to be honest with you. They don't have a consistent pass rush. If you're not getting to the quarterback, you're not stressing them out, you're not winning games. The quarterback is the most important position, and if you can get him flustered and try to make plays, he's going to make mistakes. So they definitely need to address that defense, either be a no-fly zone or containing the running game and the quarterback within the pocket, because it's going to be a struggle this year if they do not address that on that defense. because they are going to be facing they're the next level below the Philadelphia Eagles in my eyes. If they want to be the top tier NFC team, they're going to have to control the Eagles.
Yeah. That's why I was saying, like, their first pick in the draft needs to be a edge rusher or linebacker, somebody who can get to the quarterback and put pressure on those offensive linemen, because that to me is where they lack. And then they just go out and get a receiver, and then all these other guys get better health-wise, and then things will change.
Because if the Green Bay Packers want to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, they're going to have to figure out how to keep the Eagles from doing the tush push. And the way to do it is minimize the yardage and control the line of scrimmage. If you're not doing that, you're allowing them to catch 2, 3, 5 yard passes, and they get to that 4th and 1, they're going to tush push every single time. Sorry, Green Bay fans, but it's still illegal play. They can do it. But Green Bay and their division right now, just on paper, looks a lot better than their counterparts, the Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings, and Chicago Bears. They're the only ones right now with a safe bet. Vegas says 9.5 wins. I'm right around 9 wins, in between how low they can go this season and how high they can go. So 9 wins is a very comfortable bet for them.
And Josh Jacobs the previous season said Marshawn Lloyd was just as good as himself. So nobody knows what Marshawn Lloyd can do when they start this season up and see how he plays in the running game. And nobody knew Xavier McKinney was going to be as good as he was. I mean, he was one of the top safeties that they picked up the previous season. He had a decent amount of interceptions. But ultimately, it's the pass rush that can allow these secondaries to get more interceptions in the future. All right, Detroit Lions.
We the Detroit Lions. We the Detroit Lions. Stop playing with us.
Detroit Lions still have a bunch of amazing players all across their roster. Jared Goff, if he goes down, they got Hendon Hooker to play in quarterback. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, they called them Sonic and Knuckles. Apparently that was what people were saying what they were. Jahmyr Gibbs is a very fast running back. Tough to stop in the running game. St. Brown is their top-tier receiver. Guy catches over 200 catches every single day to prepare. Smart on him. Jameson Williams, decent receiver. Tim Patrick was catching all kinds of balls last season. Sam Laporta, one of the top tight ends right there. So offensively, phenomenal. And then they got all kinds of injuries on their defense, so that really wrecked them. Aiden Hutchinson will probably be back, one of the top defensive ends in the league. I think he was number 2 in the draft, something like that, something crazy like that. But this team is still going to be tough just with the player selection. However, the big question is, how will they play out with so much change at the coaching positions beyond just the head coach spot? So I think the Detroit Lions do get over 8 wins. They will get 10 wins. I think they hit about 10 wins.
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the coffin on the Detroit Lions. The biggest thing is the loss of coordinators. Ben Johnson is now the Chicago Bears head coach, and you got Aaron Glenn going to the New York Jets. The big question will be, was it Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, or was it Dan Campbell that really made this team what it was? So I feel there's going to be a little bit of a transition period that's going to happen. They still have a solid defense. Their offense is still a decent offense that can score at will. They like to have fun. I love watching their games, especially when they're doing those end arounds and the quarterback is catching the ball. They do a lot of crazy things on offense, and they look like they're having fun. But this year, I think some people are starting to catch up on them as far as the NFC side. To me, they can go as low as 7-10, and they can go as high as 10-7. But to me, the safe bet, if you're trying to bet in Vegas, is 8.5 wins. They're still a good team. They're still one of the most competitive teams in the NFC. But with everybody else coming back, injury plays as a factor. There's a lot of stuff going on with Detroit Lions that they need to figure out. And they're only the margin of error is literally a half a game for me predicting the Lions and Green Bay Packers. So it's not like the Green Bay Packers are so much better. No, they are just right now on paper the better team by like a half a game.
I don't like how their head coach is promoting dirty hits and stuff like that. I don't like how he's like, oh, if we need to chew a kneecap, we're going to do it. I don't like that. They have Brian Branch and what's his name, Kirby Joseph, two of the top dirty players that are on this team right here. If they go for a kneecap, they will go for a kneecap and injure a player, not just on the Packers, but any team in this league. So those are the two guys you got to look out for. And sometimes they're so dirty that they end up hurting themselves in the process. So look out for those two guys.
Yep. So we got to talk about the Vikings.
Minnesota Vikings, okay? They have J.J. McCarthy, young quarterback, gets injured, and then along comes Sam Darnold last season, who now is on the Seattle Seahawks, no longer on the Vikings. So they only have J.J. McCarthy at the QB position. They re-sign Aaron Jones. They sign Jordan Mason. So the running game, is solid. Aaron Jones is really good, and they get Jordan Mason as a backup. Mm-hmm. And they didn't really have a backup last season, so the running game looks like, to me, has gotten better just on paper. They have big-time receivers in Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. T.J. Hawkinson's decent tight end right there that you can throw that football to. They have all kinds of injuries on that offensive line, which really hurt them in the playoffs. So that's why Sam Darnold couldn't handle it in the playoffs. He can't handle that pressure. He's got a phenomenal arm. But once you get through that offensive line, they just crumble like a cookie. And so the big question is quarterback offensively, but the defense is decent. Not sure how much changes has happened on defense. They went out and got Isaiah Rodgers, I believe. Mm-hmm. He's supposed to be a decent corner for them. Yeah. He came from the Eagles, it looks like.
Super Bowl hero, apparently.
So to me, this team is still a decent team. The big question is, do they want to throw J.J. McCarthy in the fire, or will they sign Aaron Rodgers for a year or two and figure it out, or some other quarterback to allow J.J. McCarthy to fully heal from that crazy injury and develop? So to me, I think that they're going to be a good team, but just not as good as they were last season, just based off all the injuries and the question at quarterback. But if they go out and get Aaron Rodgers, this team might be phenomenal.
So I'm going to play a little devil's advocate with J.J. McCarthy. I think if they don't get Aaron Rodgers on a short-term deal, they're going to have to do a short-term deal with him because they don't want to have him as the answer. They want J.J. McCarthy to get developed and ready to go because that's why you drafted him. If it ends up being J.J. McCarthy, I don't think there's too much of there may be a slight transition between Darnold and him. So it's not going to be a big issue if they put him in and just let him learn the NFL as they go. I know a lot of people talk about why would you put your quarterback in the fire. It's like, why not? You're already paying him $10 million a year as a first-round pick. you might as well just see what you got. And if he flourishes, he flourishes. If he doesn't, well, there's other quarterbacks that are looking for a job. Joe Flacco, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. There's plenty of guys that they can get to replace him if they have to. I think they have a good coach because he definitely knows how to maintain the chaos that's going on during the season. But to me, they're going to end up right around 8 wins because it is going to be most likely J.J. McCarthy as the starting QB. There will be some games where the Viking fans are going to want to throw him into one of the Great Lakes and watch him sink. But in all honesty, you got to trust it. I think J.J. McCarthy shown in college that as he was growing in maturity, he was becoming a better quarterback. And I think he will be the long-term answer for them if they allow it and if they continue to have continuity around him.
Now, if the offensive line heals up and perform like they did for Darnold for J.J. McCarthy, that can be really good for J.J. McCarthy.
Absolutely.
And that could allow them to get over 10 wins potentially. They can still be a really good team. It's just the big question is, will these players be fully healed at the start of the season? And who the heck is playing at quarterback? But also, too, they need to have some backup quarterbacks because they just have J.J. McCarthy. Maybe they go out and they draft a quarterback as a backup. They don't have to necessarily draft one in the first couple rounds. They can draft one in the third round just as a backup.
Right. I think some people need to understand when I say that he's like Darnold, it's because the stats. It's not because the mentality. Darnold, the biggest issue that he has is that it's that mental part of the game. When things start getting rough and he's thinking that it's because of him, he folds and he ends up losing the game for teams. That's what happened at the end of the year last year. He didn't show that he could have poise and ready to go to win for his team. And that's what the coach was seeing. A lot of the commentary that was on the Minnesota Viking games were talking about, I don't understand why the coach is so one-dimensional. He's only throwing it in one zone. He needs to spread it and distribute in other zones to get this defense open. And it was because Darnold was becoming that problem. And that's probably one of the reasons why he didn't get re-signed with the Vikings.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Last but not least, the very embarrassing Chicago embarrassing Bears.
The Bears.
Embarrassing Bears. So they got Caleb Williams. He looked all right, kind of, sort of, but he was getting clobbered because defensive linemen were just going through the offensive line like a knife and butter. Okay, they have DJ Moore, who's a phenomenal receiver, of course. They get Rome Odunze, who's supposed to be this great receiver, but he fumbled quite a bit. He had some hiccups, rookie mistakes. There's a big transition from college to the NFL, especially in this division. They have Cole Kmet, who's a solid tight end. They go out and they get themselves a new head coach who goes off on a interview and trash talks the division, trash talks the Packers, specifically saying how great it was to beat the Packers 2 times when he was on the Lions, and with a weird look on his face. But I think the Packers probably saw that and they'll see that as motivation and probably are looking forward to opportunity against the embarrassing Bears. Defensively, they have Montez Sweat. They got some guys, Jaquan Brisker. Those are a couple of names that kind of stand out for me. Their defense is all right, but I think that what they really did was they went out and they got themselves some new offensive linemen, potentially to see if that will make a difference maker for this team. I think this team will be a little bit better than last season, but I don't think they're going to be better than the Lions, Vikings, and Packers. So I see them around 6 or 7 wins.
Yep. So I think Ben Johnson was an excellent choice for the Chicago Bears because of the fact you could feel that he was a little bit in the room when he was with the Detroit Lions as far as when he was a head coach, offensive coordinator over at the Lions. So he was able to get that feel and understand what it takes to be that next person. They did pick up some solid free agents, Montez Sweat on the defensive line, and also traded to get 2 guards that are going to help the interior of that line, which was a big issue because a lot of the stunt A-gap blitzes were just killing Caleb Williams. So you go out and you get guys that can help continue to block that A-gap and make sure nobody is getting into the pocket. However, I think they're going to be a 6-win team only because it's going to be a transition. They're going to be competitive. I think there's a couple of games that they could win above 6, but even Vegas is saying 7.5 wins is most likely going to happen for the Chicago Bears based on the schedule right now. This is a matter of when those teams face the Chicago Bears. To me, I think it's going to be 6 wins. So they are definitely going to be competitive. They're only 2 games away from being the second-place team, 3 games away from being the first-place team in their division. It's just their division is loaded, and they have to figure it out when they face other teams because that's where they're going to get all their wins. It's these other teams.
Yep. It's going to be tough for them to get some wins against the Packers, Lions, and Vikings. So there you have it. The NFC North.
Listen up. Subscribe to Go Pack Go all day. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.